Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Top Fins with Twins. You're finding us right now between game week 33 and game week 34. There's a lot of crazy things happening at the moment in the Premier League. So, me and Luke are going to be here to break it down, give you all a great idea of our thoughts, some moves forward in FPL. But from here, Luke, I'm just going to throw it over to you. Tell everybody how you're doing right now.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all after a really, really solid game week. We'll
Yeah,
get into
Luke had
that
a
here in a little bit,
great week.
but anytime we have a good game week, I feel like that always provides some inspiration for us to be excited for the next one, right? It kind of gives you that little extra jolt of energy to keep you going. But yeah, I'm doing good. It's a busy season for all of us, I think, but it was really nice to see that, for game week 33, we had a lot of fixtures because of some extra doubles that were added.
Mhm.
But not only did we have extra fixtures, there were just a lot of really good games this weekend, and throughout the
Yep.
week that we were able to watch and enjoy. I mean, we'll get into this. We have some information to share on the matchup that happened this weekend between Manchester City and Arsenal. But I mean, that Man City and Arsenal match, I do not think we see a better match with that level of intensity and the amount riding on that one fixture. We won't see that for a very long time, as far as
Yep.
I'm concerned. It's a very unique position that we just saw between Man City and Arsenal. So, a really great weekend. Lots of good football to watch. We'll get into that in greater detail as we go through the podcast today, but I'm really excited to be here with you guys. And throughout the course of this episode today, we'll also be talking about some of the free hit recommendations that we have. Um, just kind of a lot of stuff going on, right? So we'll give you a lots of really good information, and hopefully that'll help you guys
Mhm.
build a really great Game Week 34 team. And all the way through the run-in as we're getting near the tail end of the season here. So, if you want, Paul, we can kind of show the listeners how our teams did for Game Week 33.
Yeah, and while I'm kind of pulling up our little presentation here, if anybody out there wants to, give us I would say, a 5 stars on Spotify or like us on YouTube, drop a comment. Just let us know what you think. Drop your team into the comments of any section. We're happy to help out. This is going to be okay. Sorry, just looking at this. Okay. We're sharing our screen.
Beautiful.
So can you see it, Luke?
Um, I can now. You're gonna want to go into presentation view for there it is. Perfect.
You
Yep,
can see
that
it?
looks great.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, so as everybody can tell, our resident graphic designer, Luke, did honestly an awesome job of putting this stuff together. So down in the comments, just let him know what you think because he did a great job putting all this stuff together.
Yeah, don't forget to fill out the post podcast survey, everyone. There are only 95 questions in the survey, so much appreciated if you fill that out.
Yeah,
Just
and
kidding. We
we'll
don't have a post podcast survey. But if you do have thoughts, send them in the chat. Let us know. We can continue to evolve this. We do usually prefer to do the podcast in person where we can film together. But the plus side of doing the podcast in this iteration is we're able to share some more data heavy graphs and also go through, the fixtures, and it's a little more tangible to go through it like this. So
Mhm,
if you can also let us know which way you prefer, right? Do you
mhm.
prefer this version where we're sharing a presentation, or if we're doing it in person? So let us know that as well. But let's dive into our teams for game week 33. Paul, if you could go to next slide. Okay.
Yes, I
So
can.
Paul, let's talk about your game week.
Yeah, I can't lie. It was a good week for me, but all in all, I'm pretty disappointed, I think, with how things shook out in my team, which sounds crazy. I mean, I'm on 115 points. Bench boost played
Mhm.
out great. But the Bournemouth clean sheet wipeout, I mean, they have 2 goals against Leeds. That was really
Right.
disappointing, considering that I
Mhm.
had Hill, and especially in the situation where Hill gives up an own goal, gets a -2, loses the
Yeah,
clean
that
sheet points. He's on
at
DEF
at
CON.
least
He
at least
probably
he hit
would have been
DEF
on
CON.
bonus too, right? Like,
Maybe
he usually
maybe.
gravitates towards bonus if he hits DEF CON sometimes.
It's tricky though because, let's say that that ends up being a Calvert-Lewin goal and that goes in, right? And Hill doesn't get the own goal.
Oh,
If you concede 2 goals, you're still probably not gonna get bonus at that
mhm,
point. But we would have taken that because then the DEF CON actually means something instead of just canceling out the own goal, which
mhm.
sucks. So,
Yeah, and then you
yeah.
also see, in there, having Van Heck and Matoma, like, weirdly,
Mhm.
Matoma, didn't start the first game of the double. He subs
Right.
in, gets a goal, that helps a ton. But even
Mhm.
even in that last game where they played, shit, who was it? Where they played Chelsea at home,
Chelsea. Mhm.
like, Matoma, a great chance, and probably, like, I think it was, like, the first 10 minutes where Sanchez makes a really good save. Van Heck
Yeah.
also had a chance on the
Mhm.
corner. Like, just kind of like those swinging door moments, and even in my team, I know you captain O'Reilly, Luke, but he
Mhm.
has a tap in probably the easiest chance he's ever had, and he doesn't convert it against Burnley. Like,
Yeah, so I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second,
yeah, and
but
then
that was pretty crazy. Yeah.
yeah, and then, I mean, it does help. I mean, Stoic on the bench, Petrovic. I mean, the bench boost worked out well for me, but I mean, the Chelsea assets, like, those are just players in my team that probably will be on the way out the door because Chelsea just look absolutely lifeless. Maybe a new manager bounce will happen sometime soon with Rosenier on the way with him out. But I mean, good game week for me. Honestly, kind of pales in comparison to what Luke did with his week. So let's take a look at his team real quick. There you
All
go.
right, everyone.
A
So,
bigger number there.
yeah, so ended up having a pretty good game week, right? I think I will end up on a few less points. Van Heck is going to lose a bonus point,
What?
and then, but I think that it kind of is canceled out because Holland is just going to get the 1 bonus. He was on 3 bonus at the very end of the match, but apparently opted to push through a big chance missed, which then pushed him down to only 1 bonus point. So I think it should be 138. That might fluctuate a tiny bit, but all in all, 138 points with my bench boost active. Really, really solid game week.
Mhm,
For context, going into the game week, I did take out Bruno Fernandez and brought in Aronson. A little
mhm,
bit, 7 points from Aronson is pretty good. Like, I'll take that assist and then, get the minutes. And then I think he also got a clean sheet point. So it's
mhm.
pretty good. But I was also between Okafor or Aronson, and Okafor had a massive return
Yeah.
in the first leg of this double game week and potentially could have had a couple of goals is what it felt like this week.
Oh
In
yeah.
the most
I
recent
mean,
fixture against
th-
Bournemouth, he ended
he
up hitting
should
the
have,
post, right? He should have finished.
finished that chance.
So Okafor is someone that I think all of us we should keep on our radar. He's looked really good. His underlying numbers are great. It's just a question with him. We know we're not going to get all 90 minutes, but we do know Leeds fixtures are really solid going forward. It's just a matter of the blank coming up in 34,
Mhm,
and managing that as far as that goes. But all in all here, I'm really happy. Paul did highlight this that um, Nico O'Reilly had a massive opportunity that he missed.
mhm.
I've got the stats right here. So the 90th minute, there was a ball played through to him by Bernardo Silva, right? Or is Cherokee? I can't remember
I
which.
don't know.
It was Cherokee or Bernardo Silva. I
I did
swear
not watch that
they look
match.
so similar on the pitch, but he gets the ball chipped through to him, and really, it's pretty much a tap in. You would as soon as I saw the ball played, I was like, "That's a goal." Like, there's no way he doesn't finish this, and he doesn't finish it. So I ultimately will miss out on 16 points from that because he'd get the 5 points for the goal. He'd get an additional 3, I would imagine, for scoring a goal with the clean sheet. So that's 8 points, and then with the captain, double that, right? So an additional 16
Crazy.
points, and I would have had probably my best game week ever.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I mean, this
so,
has to be up there, right, Luke, with your best game week ever?
it's up there. It's not my best game week because I had that week back when Crystal Palace doubled back in the 2024-2025 season at the tail end there. I
Mhm.
tripled up on Elise, Mateta, and Eze, and I think I pushed like 150, 160 points.
God,
So that was wild. I love double game weeks.
no
I
kidding, man.
live for the double game weeks. So
So the
um
the question is though, Luke, what did this do to your overall rank?
let me pull that up. So I just take that off. As of now, let's see. This would probably be the most accurate. So before this, I think I halved my rank is what I did. Um,
Wow.
yeah. So I almost more than halved my rank. I was around 1.3, about 1.35 million going into
Mhm,
this game week, and now I'm sitting at 624K. So I absolutely skyrocketed up this week. Um,
mhm.
my weekly rank was 19,000 overall, which is by far the best week I've ever had, this season for sure. But, I mean, think 16 more points, I could have been pushing for a sub 1K weekly rank if I get that goal from
Yeah.
O'Reilly. So that would have been quite I would have been running around the house at that point,
Yeah.
and my dog would not have been happy with me, but
No, he would have killed
so
you.
be it. But yeah, honestly, really happy with the game week. I feel like I played my chips correctly up until this point. Now, where
Mhm.
this leaves me with my team, I do now only have 4 players for the next game week. Um, and I don't have my
Yeah.
free hit, so I've gotta get creative. But I also have to keep in mind too that this strategy that I have right now that required me to wild card in some of the players who weren't doubling in Game Week 33.
Mhm.
There's some of the reasons why I did so well, right? Because Morgan Gibbs White deserves his flowers because that 20 pointer is massive, right? It's huge. And at this point, he's currently owned by, I want to say, he's currently owned by 7.7% of the game. And that was probably
That's
sub
crazy.
5% going into the game week because people
Mhm.
are now transferring him in. So he was incredible for me this week and really, really the bright spot amongst a lot of really good performances. Um, I think my one regret on the wild card that I put together in 32 is I put in some consideration for Pascal Gross, and I wish I would have trusted my gut on that.
Yeah.
Um, there was a part of me that said I shouldn't go with Chelsea at all, right? Like just to completely swerve them altogether.
Mhm.
Turns out that would have been the right pick. But,
Yeah.
it is what it is, right? Cole Palmer seemed like he had pretty high upside, so I didn't want to go away from that.
Turns out he had no upside at all.
Yeah, I mean, more points than João Pedro, but not the returns that we wanted there. So, really the main disappointment for this game week is Sar not starting. That's a problem for my team going forward because
Mhm.
I'm relying upon him for game week 34, and I need him to start against Liverpool away. So
I mean, dude,
I'm gonna have to keep him in the team.
he loves playing Liverpool, so
Yeah,
honestly,
so he
I wouldn't worry about it.
better put in a good performance is all I gotta say. But
Yeah.
no, I'm happy with Sar in the team. I think European competition will make it a little more difficult, but it's one of those. So yeah,
Should
but that
should
that was
work
my
out
game
for you.
week. We'll see how next week goes.
Mhm.
But as we kind of highlighted, there was a very big fixture that happened this past weekend. And I think maybe we should talk about that a little bit, Paul. I will hand it over to you. Let's kind of get your thoughts. Um, what you thought about the massive fixture between Man City and Arsenal. And also, after we go through that, I think getting an idea of which FPL assets you think are worthy investing in, and the way we'll set this up is you can talk about Arsenal, and I'll talk about City.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think from an Arsenal perspective, I mean, this is a team that's been struggling over the past, month and a half, 2 months, I'd say, just mostly
Paul,
down to j
do you wanna go to that slide
oh,
about with
yeah,
the stats for City and Arsenal?
yeah, sorry.
Oh,
Oh,
skip that. Sorry.
oh, we're
Wrong
gonna bounce
order there.
around a little bit here.
We will okay, here we go, that's
Okay.
perfect.
There we go, everybody. But I mean, from an Arsenal perspective, I think that that performance was something that should inspire hope for Arsenal fans. You see the difference of having Kai Havertz up top and the ball retention whenever you play. A team that is technical, that can pass around other people, and more importantly, press. I mean, this is a team that's struggled with that over the past 2 months. And like the amount of times we've seen Arsenal turn over teams in the past probably 3 years, I'd say, due to the high press. Odegaard helps a ton. Having Eze in there, I mean, that game, I will tell this to everybody that I talk to, that if that game's played 10 times, I think Arsenal win four, City win four, and they tie twice. That kind of thing, because it was just one of those games where it was severely down to tiny margins and literal inches or centimeters. And it was a great Premier League fixture. I mean, those are the kind of things that you want to see as a Premier League fan, and even as an Arsenal fan. I mean, I'm still proud of that team. They went to the Etihad, they put in a great performance. There's been previous seasons where Arsenal have gone to City and they've been blown out and completely just like ruined. Like, I mean, City changed the way that Arteta played like 3 years ago. And I think
Mhm.
it's a positive performance from Arsenal. There are 5 games to go, and we saw today. I mean, City beat Burnley 1-0 with Burnley having some pretty decent chances. This title race is going to fluctuate back and forth up until the final game week of the season or almost right up to that point. So I
Yeah,
think it's positive
completely.
if we're looking at an FPL perspective at Arsenal. I would say, I mean, Gabriel is probably always going to be a good option. Um,
Mhm.
probably, and I can admit, probably should have been sent off. So that would have been a massive blow to Arsenal to lose him for 3 games, the red card, if he would have been sent off in that way. Um, I'd say Gabriel. I really like Eze as an FPL option. And then
Mhm.
probably only those two. I mean, at this point, I mean, you can't really even go Havertz or Gyökeres because you're not sure who's going to play the rest of the way out. And then for
Yeah.
wingers, there's not a winger returning for Arsenal. So I mean, I would
Well,
I would really say
the thing we don't think about as well, like Havertz did score a goal, right?
yeah,
Like
he for
I
sure did.
know it comes from pressing and being on the front foot, kind of in a defensive side of things, but he did score a goal, so I feel like that bodes well for him continuing to start.
Mhm.
But yeah, keep going, Paul. Sorry.
Yeah, and I will say too. I mean, I think people listening to this podcast know that I'm a massive fan of Kai Havertz. I think he's an excellent footballer, and he does so many things. As Luke was saying, that goal that he created out of essentially nothing by pressing Donnarumma. And then it's going to go down if Arsenal end up losing the title. People are going to circle back to those 2 missed chances he had. The one where he gets
Mhm.
played through, can't get the ball around Donnarumma, and then the header at the end. That it just makes me sad for him, and I don't mean that in any other kind of way. Besides, if he converts those 2 chances, he writes his name into Arsenal record books and Premier League record books. But it is somebody
Right.
that's out of
Yeah.
form, hasn't been playing those big minutes. So I'm still supporting Kai Havertz, but it just makes me sad in a certain regard. But yeah, I'm optimistic for the rest of the season, but it is going to be week to week, just dangling on a knife's edge.
I agree. I agree. I think it's one of those things where, like you said, it's gonna keep going back and forth. I do not believe that we're here at the end of the season and City are gonna win out and even Arsenal are gonna win out. I think it's possible both could drop points and then we end up right where we're at right now, right? Where maybe they're level on points.
For sure.
And that would be quite the interesting tell, right? Let's say we go down to the final day and this wouldn't be good for you, Paul, or our other podcast guest, Kyle. But let's say we get to the final day and it goes down to goals scored away, right? Like goes that far down the food chain of where we could see, the title race being decided. And as a neutral, that this is one of those things that obviously for Paul's sake, I don't want to see Arsenal losing the title, but for someone like me, it's always good to see a title race, right? Like we
Okay.
have that engaging and drama filled journey that we're going to be on here in the run-in.
Yeah.
So I know you don't like that, Paul, but the Premier League is loving it. They're
Oh
all
yeah.
about it. So
Hmm. Yeah,
I
I
do
agree with
agree with
you.
what you're saying, though. I think Gabriel's probably the best pick whenever we look at Arsenal going forward. Um, Arsenal is fortunate that he'll be there for those games. That's something that you highlighted, potential red card there. Um,
But
but
you could
the
also
important
say
thing
the
is he's
same.
not. He's
You
not,
could say the
right?
same thing too for Kusanov not being sent off as well as the
Potentially,
last man.
potentially,
So
but
I
he
think it was
also
both ways.
doesn't have he's not as important to City as Gabriel is, right? Like if Gabriel's not there, then it's really influential for their team, but also for us as FPL managers too, right?
Hmm.
Because
Yep.
Gabriel's so highly owned. So
Yep.
that's why it's a little more noteworthy for what we're talking about at the moment.
Mhm.
You know, as far as City goes, the best players to look at, I think we all need to be tripled up on Man City, right? Like if we're just looking at it from a strictly FPL perspective, at this point, maybe maybe we see Paul getting rid of all of his City assets. I'm not sure which direction you're going to go with that, but
I've been
um,
tempted.
that's risky. It's risky, but if that's what you feel, then go for it. But I think at this point, with City having a double as well, that still needs to be slotted in somewhere in the remaining game weeks. I think having three City players is almost a must. And the three that I would target, and it's actually not the three that I have in my team currently, it would be O'Reilly, Cherokee, and then Holland. I think
Yeah.
those three are money, right? Like Semenyo is higher owned, but with Cherokee, you get more of that potential upside, right? Like he's
And
someone that
Semenyo's not in good form right now either too.
no, he's not. But couldn't you easily see, one of the remaining fixtures, he just bags a brace, right? Like he's always going to be near returns. I just think at this point in time, Cherokee feels a little more fun. There's a little more opportunity there because not only is he finishing chances, but he's also potentially creating chances. So,
Yeah.
something to keep on the radar there, as well. So, yeah, that would be my preferred triple up. I currently have Mateus Nunez, I have Nico O'Reilly, and I have Holland, but I'm kind of considering making some moves elsewhere, and then kind of reconfiguring that as we go into the final stretch here. So, um, yeah, but I think it's one of those, like we said, the title race is still on. There's so much to play for, and as FPL managers, we can kind of take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So,
And
I
look,
think the best way. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Yep.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I think another thing to highlight is that, I mean, we could see an arms race with Arsenal and City where it's like who can score the most goals. Maybe that will win the title for them, you know? So I
Hmm.
mean, having attacking assets that are performing where if we see, Arsenal come out against Newcastle this weekend and Eze scores 2 and assists 1 because they're playing really progressive, or I mean, I
Right.
think you could even make the
Yeah.
argument for his price point, it may be too much, but Odegaard has looked he created 2, I think, what, 2 or 3 of the big chances that Arsenal had this past
Yeah.
game week. He gets a couple
Hmm.
assists, they keep a clean sheet, and that's a really good transfer, you know? Or he could score
Yeah.
too. I mean, who knows?
Hmm. I think Eze would be the one that I would target if I
Same,
was going to
for
go
sure.
for a differential Arsenal option, because I mean he hit the post. He's looked more like the Eze at Crystal Palace as of late.
Yeah,
And that's one of those things that maybe he's giving us some warning shots, right? And it's an indicator for us to realize that, okay, maybe we need to go there. And I do think, as you said multiple times, Paul, I think Arsenal have easier fixtures
mhm,
as they go towards the tail end of the season here. The only Only thing we have to balance is Arsenal also has Champions League. That's going to be very important to them going
Mhm.
forward too. So we'll just keep that on our minds.
Yep.
Yes, but shall we talk about our free hit drafts? Does that sound good to you,
Yeah,
Paul?
let's do that. Here,
Okay.
let's go backwards. Start with yours, okay?
Okay. So what I've done here, and what both Paul and I have done, is we put together free hit drafts, to show you all kind of what we're thinking would be the ideal team going into game week 34. We
Mhm.
do have 6 teams that are blanking. So in total, that means that we have 7 games that are going to be played this weekend. That does limit the selection that we have. And um, I really feel like looking at the free hit drafts that I could put together, I didn't love the drafts, right? Like there are some really interesting options that I think could be a lot of fun, especially when we're looking at players like Salah, right? Like, it's like a last hurrah to get
Mhm.
him in the team because he's been playing better. But on a free hit, I don't know if you want to be bringing in Salah for the long term. Is kind of where
Yeah,
my head's at, right? Like
completely
maybe
agree, Luke.
give it a game week, roll the dice, see what happens. Maybe he can continue converting some of the chances he's getting. But for the long term, I'm not sure if I see it there. So um, what I've done with this free hit is I put players out there that I think you know are pretty differential. Um, but also giving you a good chance at having some players that will be a little higher owned, and I think the biggest threats going into this game week. So you kind of get all of your bases covered with this team. So um, for anyone listening to the podcast, I'll read out the team really quickly, and then Paul, you can ask any questions you have about
Mhm.
how I set this up.
Yep.
So in goal, I have Woodman, and in case you all have never heard of him, which you probably haven't, he is Liverpool's backup. I didn't just make up the name. He's their backup to the backup.
Yeah.
So we saw Liverpool's backup goalkeeper get injured this weekend. And I think he's going to be out for an extended duration. So that's why I went with Woodman. I could be wrong on this, so there might be a change I need to make. But if I was going to bring in someone else, um, it would probably, I'd have to configure some of the defenders. Probably take Tarkowski out and then upgrade, or just switch him with a Henderson, most likely. So, okay, so I have Woodman in goal, and then in a 3-5-2 with Mukulele, that has Force at home, and then I've got big Virgil van Dijk at the back, Crystal
Mhm.
Palace at home, and then Tarkowski playing West Ham away. In the midfield, there's Njai Javi, who there might be some pushback there from Paul.
Oh, what?
And then and then Bruno Fernandes, Salah, and then Gibbs White off the back of his hat trick. I think him getting a return next week against Sunderland, that's a pretty good opportunity. And Forster really pushing. So that's the other layer that I wanted to incorporate into this. I wanted
Mhm.
to bring in players that have something to play for, right? Like there's something on the line
Yep.
and they're not necessarily sailing off to the beach, right? Like they're not moving towards the sunset already. So, and then up front for my 2 strikers that are starting, I have Watkins, who's playing Fulham away, and then I have Bowen, who has Everton at home. So, Paul, launch any questions you might have.
So the first thing I noticed with your team, Luke, is just that fundamentally, I think it goes against some of my probably biggest rule that I have in FPL is that I don't want to play one of my attackers against a defender, and you have it
Mm,
twice with Bowen and Tarkowski, and then Gibbs, White, and Mukulele, which I do think that like both of those games could be high scoring. I mean, we know West Ham are in good form. Everton had a little bit of a dip, I'd say, on the weekend against Liverpool, but they've been playing really good football too. So, I mean, I like
mhm.
that pick. I
Yep,
really do like the Salah pick. You'll see he's in my free hit draft.
yep,
Um, and Jai, I like that one. Watkins is in great form as well right now. Bruno Fernandez, you really just can't argue with this year. Little bit probably of a dip, I'd say, lately, but still playing really well, still an all these like great attacking positions for United. The
Mhm.
only one, that I have a problem with is going to be Woodman in the
Xavi
back.
Simons.
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
never mind. You
yeah,
didn't say
yeah.
it. You didn't say it. All
I did
right.
not. I kinda subverted you there a little bit. The only reason I'm
Well
saying
played. Well played.
the only reason I'm saying Woodman here is that I just wouldn't double up on that Liverpool defense, and I know that he's really cheap. He may be a big price enabler there for you to kinda put all these things together, but I think partly when I put together a free hit team, I always wanna have at least one of the bench slots that I just drop down to, like, the most minimal price point so that I can just
Mhm.
create, which Woodman may do that for you from a goalkeeper perspective, but, I
Yeah.
think, I mean, all 3 of your defenders, I know what I said earlier about how it just kind of, fundamentally, I disagree with it, but all 3 of those players can return and have attacking returns and probably hit DEFCON, especially Virgil and Tarkowski. So, really like that, and then also, I mean, I just have to say it, but Javi Simmons, like, we'll see what he does, but, I mean, I doubt that he's going to repeat the performance of last weekend, and it was just a goal
I
off the bench
don't
too.
know. I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things where in these moments, right, whenever, Spurs currently sit 2 points behind West Ham, right? They're
Yeah,
currently being relegated if it stays the way it is. We look at West Ham's remaining fixtures, right? Um they have Everton at home,
they play Arsenal.
Brentford away, then they have Arsenal at home, Newcastle and Leeds. I think those are still tricky fixtures, and I think West Ham, there's no shot that they run the gambit and get 15 points out of the remaining 5 fixtures. That's
That's
just
right.
not gonna happen, right?
Yeah,
I would be completely shocked. On the other hand, if Spurs win against Wolves, right? If we see them go in, play really well, and really continue to build off the momentum that they've had over the last 2 fixtures, I would expect to see them continue to score more goals, and that's how they get through this, right, potentially.
yeah,
Xavi Simmons, he's someone who looked good the last 2 games, and he's also being trusted to play. So I don't know, it's one of those things where it is a little risky. It's one of those picks where I feel good about it, but another player that we could have potentially included on this, and you know, I might even revise this free hit if I were going with this. I think I could easily take Tarkowski out, bring
mhm,
in Pedro Porro instead, who scored a goal last week. And then I think I'd also upgrade Njai to Kieran Dewsbury Hall as well and lower that price point. And then that would allow me to chop, toss Woodman in the wood chipper, get him out of the team, and then get someone in a little bit more reliable, right? So,
yeah,
um, but Xavi Simons, I mean, if you look at his touch map or his heat map from the fixture against Brighton, he was everywhere, right? He's creating chances as
yeah,
well. It's just if they're gonna get through this, I think he's gonna be the reason why they do. So, and another important thing, I think having Bentancur back and playing in fit, that goes a really long way for them as well. He's so important to them on the pitch and really kind of marshals that midfield together. So,
yeah.
um, yeah, but we'll have to keep an eye on how this goes. But I think both of those Spurs assets between Porro and Xavi Simmons are very interesting to me.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I think honestly, I'd pick Porro probably over Javi Simmons just because, I mean, Wolves have, once again, kinda had a downturn. They had that stretch where they were just playing honestly really good football. Seems
Mhm.
like that has kinda dwindled off as,
Yeah.
the tail end of the
Yep.
season's caught up a little bit, so I don't mind either. I mean, I I think you can find better midfield options than Javi Simmons, but he could easily prove me wrong this weekend, so who knows?
Potentially. Yeah. Yep. Shall we hop into your free hit team ball?
Yeah, let's do it. Um, so I'll go over it real quick, and then we can kind of do the same thing where you give us some feedback and some thoughts here, Luke. So
Yep. Yep.
for everybody not listening, for goalkeepers, I have Raya, and then I also have Kinski, who is Spurs backup goalkeeper, and that's more of a price point thing. If we look on the back line, I have Virgil, Big Gabby, Mavropanos. Pedro Porro, and then another price enabler of Ramsey, who is just a Liverpool defender. He's 3.7. Just enables
Okay,
kind of what
so
I want to do.
he would just sit on your bench, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's not
Okay.
getting anywhere close. And then so for my midfield, I have another price enabler in Burrows, who's just a Villa midfielder, and then I have Casemiro, Rogers, Salah, and Bruno Fernandez. And
Mhm.
then if we look at my strikers, there's Watkins, Tiago, and Bowen, who would be who that would
Okay.
round out the forward line.
So in this shape, Paul, would you play a 4-3-3?
I
Is
think
that what you're thinking?
I would probably go 4-4-2.
Which striker are you benching? Tiago probably or
I would say
Bowen?
Tiago. Tiago.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And
No,
so
I hear you. I think, for this free hit, I think if you could, if you're gonna go 4-4-2, I think I would drop Tiago down to just a really cheap
mhm,
striker who's gonna play, and then you could upgrade Casemiro a little bit, right? Maybe ADH, right? Like he's a really interesting pick to me this week. His underlying numbers were great last week, even though he didn't return.
mhm.
Um, and he's so much fun to watch play. He's got so much
He's a
energy.
good footballer.
Um, and he's been in the returns as of the season. So I'm
Mhm,
gonna keep an eye on. But I really like this free hit draft you put together. I love the Mavropanos pick. Pedro Porro in there as well. Like I said, you're just missing Javi Simons, and that's that's the only
oh,
thing this draft is missing.
yeah,
Um,
I'm just a Spurs homer.
as you're wearing the Arsenal kit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm totally not
Yeah.
putting "fuck" 'em under my breath.
And demonetized.
Oh, no. They're
What
taking
will
all
we
10
do?
cents.
How do our families eat this week?
I don't know, man. Yeah,
No.
I have to figure something
Okay.
out.
Okay, no, here's my question to you. Which goalkeeper would you be playing this week?
I'd play Raya.
Okay. So you think that Arsenal keep the clean sheet against Newcastle?
I think they do. I really do think that, one of the big things we saw last weekend with Arsenal was the control, and they were playing City, so I know that City did have more of the possession, but I think a lot of things really just go by Arsenal's press, and if you have a team
Mhm.
with Eze, Odegaard, they're gonna do a better job of controlling the ball, being in the opposition's other half, and I think it's gonna really let up a lot of the pressure from, from the defense because 'cause they've just been under constant assault in 2026. And I think if Timber or Calafiori comes back as well, that offers a lot more solidity to that defense. So, um, haven't heard anything about that, but I think you probably could see one of them pushing to return this week. So,
Yeah. I we
we
we talked about this last week on the podcast, but I was very worried about the combinations that Arsenal would be able to field. Um,
Mhm,
it was not often throughout the course of this season and even in other competitions that we see Mascara playing at right back. And I think that kind of showed at times. Um,
yeah.
Even having Odegaard back, I think he's not as embedded in the squad as he was for a while at other points in the season because he's been out so
Mhm.
much. Um,
Yeah, and
it was like
if you go ahead.
the sorry, just one more kind of building onto this, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts. So when you saw Arsenal pressing, right, and they were very front-footed, right? They were
Mhm,
pressing the way that they used to 2 years ago, and they would turn teams over and really make teams uncomfortable. We haven't seen
mhm,
that quite as much, but it makes more sense because you have Havertz and Odegaard, who are both really good at pressing opposing teams. Where what I also saw though is it seemed like Arsenal would press and then players wouldn't rotate correctly. And a lot of times that would lead to frustration from either Havertz up front, Odegaard up front, or even Gabriel and Saliba at the back. So I think there were some structural problems there that I think Arsenal will continue to press because they know they have to score goals,
Yeah,
right? So I do think there might be goals that they do concede in the future as well, on top of that,
possibly.
by coming out a little bit more. Um, but then again, I think maybe they rely on their bread and butter. So it's a line that I'm not exactly sure which direction to go with.
Mhm.
But over their remaining fixtures, so Arsenal have, let's see, they have, okay, so we have Newcastle. That's going to be at home for Arsenal. Then they have Fulham at home as well, and then go away to West Ham on May 10th.
Mhm.
And then there's two more fixtures to close out the season: Burnley at home, and then Crystal Palace away on the final day.
Yep.
I think out of all of those, so five remaining fixtures, I think I see potentially three or four clean sheets in there.
Yeah.
Maybe well, somewhere between two and four, right? Would be my guess. With the variance and the way things have been going for them lately, I think I would err on the side of two, but I could easily see four. But it just feels like they've been really unlucky lately. And we know that
Yeah.
defending comes down to a lot of luck, especially for keeping the clean sheet. So what I pose to you, Paul, so out of those next five fixtures, how many clean sheets do you think they will get? And do you think that, for this free hit that you put together, would you recommend people having Arsenal players? And clearly you have them. So why do you think it's a good selection to have them for Newcastle at home?
Um, I think the double Arsenal is a little bit of a risk. I think I'm just looking at it as in this game week, I don't know if I see other options out there that I really love to keep clean sheets, you know? Like
Mhm.
Liverpool could be a shout, but they've also been extremely leaky this year. Spurs against Wolves, that's a major toss up because I mean, Wolves have look what Wolves have done against Arsenal this season. Like they will turn up with odd goals in every week. The Fulham Villa game feels like it could be really high scoring. United Brentford, I mean that one also feels high scoring as well. So I mean, I think I'm just relying a little bit more on Arsenal. I think may be able to find that form that they had earlier in the season, mostly in like 2025. If they're getting these pieces back, adding more
Mhm.
people in that are going to be healthy, then we could see a situation again, for the last five where maybe Arsenal kind of put it together again and have that impenetrable defense. I mean, I remember there were times
Right.
probably like in the first 15 game weeks of the season where it was like, holy shit, Arsenal allowed a shot on goal. Like, what
Right.
is what
Yeah.
is happening right
Yeah.
now? And the Newcastle game
I
could be
think
tricky.
Paul,
I mean, it could be
it
tricky,
kind of
but
like, if you want to go to that slide that shows the expected goals for sorry, the XG per team, it should just be one more over, I think. Okay, so this is, yeah. So here, what this shows on the left here is we have the breakdown um, of the XG from the top five expected goals for teams since the beginning of March, right? Um,
Mhm.
and this kind of, I took the top five teams, summed up their XG, and then this gives us the percentage that each team has of that overall top five teams' expected goals. So
Mhm.
as we can see here, these are the teams that are creating the most chances and most likely to have chances as going forward, right? If we look at all five of these, I think all five of these teams are really good to invest in. But my
Mhm.
concern with kind of as we're having this Arsenal talk is I don't see Arsenal on that list. And when we look further down, they're I think eighth on the list right there,
Yeah.
right? Um, but if you do look at the XGA column, so expected goals allowed, Arsenal are sitting very good on expected goals allowed. Not the best team on that metric, but definitely top three in the league. So um, that tells me maybe they're more worthwhile investing in from a defensive perspective if we're just looking at the expected figures.
Yeah. I mean,
And
that's
when
a
we
great
also
point. Like,
factor in the upcoming fixtures as well and what that could look like. While also throwing in, sorry, the points just continue. If we're mixing in those players that you were talking about, Paul, where we're getting they get Timber back, potentially Calafiori, then the likelihood of those clean sheets just continue to skyrocket as they get those
Yep.
players back in. So I would advise everyone to keep a very close eye on whether or not those players are coming back in. So as we know, Arteta is great. He's really good at revealing information in his pressers.
Oh yeah.
So
No, dude, he's an open book. Like you could expect, he'll tell you a rundown of where every single player's at.
yes, without a doubt, without a doubt, very reliable for that. So
Mhm.
um,
Totally not a
if
spy
you want,
master.
no, I would say not. How about we, okay, let's slide back over to the previous page where it shows Man City and Arsenal's fixtures. So, what I think we should do here, Paul, let's take out our FPL minds for 1 second. Let's go through and predict how we see these fixtures actually going.
Mhm.
Because with that context, that should help our listeners get a better idea of whether or not they want to continue to invest in Arsenal and City players. Because at this point, disregard the teams that are in a relegation battle. These two are the teams that have the most to play for at this point in the season. That
Mhm.
means the most. So, um, I will do Arsenal and you do Man City.
Okay. And like before we go into that, I just want to
Yes, sir.
highlight for the viewers and listeners that so if we look at it, Arsenal will play Newcastle at home and Fulham at home in game week 35 before City play against Everton away in 35. So as of
Mhm.
right now, City are what they're ahead of Arsenal by essentially 3 goals. So we could see that table should flip flop. Hopefully, I'm going to start praying that that table has flip flopped by the time
It's
City
been a second
play Everton away.
since that's happened.
I mean, some things make you really think, you know. All right,
Fair
like you go
enough.
ahead, go ahead, though. Just to set the
Okay,
stage there and tell us
so
about Arsenal.
all right, I'm just gonna rip through this real quick. So Newcastle at home, I think that will be an Arsenal 3 points. Fulham at home, I think that's 3 points again for Arsenal. West Ham away is actually really tricky. I either
Mhm.
see a draw or potentially West Ham winning this. Um, I think it could go either way. So let me back up a little bit. West Ham away is one of those fixtures where going into it, I don't know what's going to happen in that
Yeah,
match. I could easily see what kind of typically happens to Arsenal is they score an early goal. Let's say, we get a Gabriel bullet header in the 23rd minute, and then they just can't convert chances after that. And then if let's say we're getting into the 70th minute, the London Stadium's getting really into the match. West Ham are pressing for a goal. Maybe they get one off a corner, or Bowen has a moment and they score a goal, right? So West Ham away feels really tricky to me, but I do see Arsenal winning out the remaining fixtures. So I
mhm.
think if we're averaging out the points, I think we see about 13 points that I expect Arsenal to get over the
Yeah,
remaining 5 fixtures, which is really good. Um, and I think that's something that could carry them to the title, right? Because Man City will probably drop points. But
yeah.
let's see what Paul thinks. And try to be as unbiased as you can in this assessment.
So I mean, you just didn't set me up for success here, Luke, but I'm going to do my best. I would say looking at Everton away, I think a lot of people are going to look at that fixture and say it's really difficult for City away. I think they're going to get 3 points out of that. It kind of depends too. We know, I think everything from here on out, it's all going to be really momentum. Everything's going to go week to week. If you see them get a positive result in the cup, I would say 3 points is probably going to happen again away at Everton. I think the Brentford fixture at home is actually really tricky.
Hmm.
The way that Brentford can set up and really just frustrate City, and then they
Yeah,
have
I agree.
Thiago, who's one of the more clinical finishers.
See,
Thiago,
I would feel a lot worse about that if it was at Brentford. I think that makes it 2 to 3 times more difficult. At home, I still think it'll be difficult, but it could be a lot worse for them.
I think it's a tough fixture. It wouldn't surprise me though if City come away with 3 points. I think the really difficult one is Bournemouth away. And
Hmm.
I think that fixture probably is going to be the title determiner. If they can get a point away at Brentford, I think it's going to be really hard for Arsenal to win the
A
title this
point,
year.
or you think if
I
they
think
get all 3 points?
I think even getting a point away at Brentford is a major success. Like look what Brentford did at home
Okay.
to Arsenal a couple weeks ago. Like they're in great form. Areola really has everybody clicking. They did just drop points to Leeds this week, but I just I think that if City can get a point there, Arsenal probably at some point, you're right, it's probably going to be the West Ham one, will falter a little bit,
Mhm.
and the goals could be a problem because I think that that last day against Villa at home, who will be playing most likely in the Europa League final shortly before this, I think you could see just a ragtag squad show up on that last day,
Yeah.
and
And
City could absolutely
with the way
destroy them.
Champions League is going, you feel like West Ham if Aston sorry, not West Ham, if Aston Villa win 2 of the next 3, they're pretty much locked in to Champions League at that point,
Mhm.
right? Like, I don't see Brighton or Bournemouth or I mean, Chelsea, we don't even have to talk about in regards to Champions League, but I think they'd be pretty locked in to have
Yeah,
UCL regardless, and if they win Europa League, then they don't even have to worry about it, right? They already automatically have a bid for Champions League,
but
which would be pretty wild because then we'd have 6 teams going Champions League next season.
which would be
So,
great. It'd be great. I mean, but I
for
will
sure.
say, Luke, I wanna stop the podcast for a second and really just slow it down. Unai Emery, I know you listen every week. You're a devoted listener of the podcast. This is your chance. If
Marco Bizat.
I know that Arsenal fans have been horrible to you and all that stuff, but you have the chance to seriously go down as an Arsenal legend. If you beat City away on the last day of the season and secure the title for Arsenal, you will be an Arsenal legend, and there is no doubt about that. So just
Paul,
throwing that out there.
I think, it's a very good piece of advice for one of our bigger listeners out there, and we do hope that, he takes that to mind.
Yeah.
The important thing too, though, is I think we need to mention this is there's a certain level of disrespect that you harbor for Tottenham Hotspur, right? After what happened last year, whenever
Mhm.
Man City went and beat them. I think the love that you have for Aston Villa would only continue to grow if he rolled out barely a starting 11 in that final game week 38. That would be I don't want that to happen because I think that would be really bad.
No, and
Um,
it
so
wouldn't surprise me, but I know Unai is a friend of the pod, so, we're not gonna say anything bad here, but, that just listen to that, play that for the boys in the locker room because if you
yes,
wanna be
yeah,
Arsenal legends, just do it, get it done, you know?
yep, completely agreed,
So
completely agreed. So
so in totality, Luke, we basically have what, let's see, 3 I mean, what? Oh, I forgot about the Palace home fixture. I would say
yeah,
that City will probably beat Palace at home. They're also balancing cup fixtures as well too. I mean, I think we could see a situation where both of these teams end up on 13 points out of both of these games.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. 13 points, we go down to the wire. Teams draw, let's say that they're tied on points. It could go down to head, right? Like who won the head to head. At that point, City would get the title. Um, I wish that what we could have at that point is Arteta, Guardiola, throw them in a ring. First one to tap out, other person wins, right? That would be interesting. But that's not going to happen. So it
Or
seems like
even
most
better,
likely
like
that.
if we
Oh,
did Gabriel and Holland, I feel like that's more
oh
fitting.
wow, yeah, no, yeah, definitely. Maybe we can do that on the White House lawn.
God,
It's an idea. It's an idea.
look, we're trying to
A
get
horrible
viewers, not
idea.
lose them.
Yes, that was said satirically. So, yes, as a depressed American over here. So, um, but I think the important thing here is that there's still going to be twists and turns as we go through the rest of the season. As FPL managers, we do want to be invested in Man City and Arsenal, as far as I see it, because, like I said earlier, they have the most to play for, they have the most on the line, and that's when players step up, right? That's whenever they go for those performances that etch them into the legacy of their clubs. So that's why I think we look at players like Eze. He's one of those creative, really spectacular players that maybe he has a moment whenever Arsenal are playing West Ham
Mhm,
away and he gets that brace and he becomes that player of legend that, hypothetically pushes Arsenal to their first title in over 20 years. So,
mhm.
um, we'll see how this plays out, but it'll be very interesting regardless. So
Yeah.
everyone stay tuned. And if you get a chance, go back and rewatch that Man City and Arsenal fixture because I have, and it's honestly a real joy to be able to watch a match that is as high level, as tactical, but also just some pure moments of brilliance and entertainment. Um,
Mhm.
as we saw with Gabriel and Holland going back and forth as they did in the match. So
Yeah.
we'll just keep an eye on that going forward. But Paul, do you have anything else that you wanted us to bring up on the pod? I think that pretty much brings us to the end of the topics that we had listed to go through.
Um, I mean, just to touch on like a little like FPL from like a 25,000 feet perspective, that this is the time of the season, where maybe you don't have many chips left. And like things are, kind of entering the final stage of the season. I mean, we have what 5 game weeks
Hmm.
to go, basically.
Yeah.
Stay
Yep.
committed. I mean, you've already run the race. You're just kind of towards the tail end of the finish line. If you want a higher rank, want a higher finish in your mini league, that kind of stuff, stay engaged and maximize. I mean, I know that like we're not sure where the City and Palace double will fall yet. If that falls in 36, that's a great opportunity, for I mean, if you're looking at especially City, I mean, if you're tripled up there and they play Brentford and Crystal Palace in 1 game week, that's a great opportunity to make up points on people that maybe are not captaining, a player on that same team this week, like Luke's pick of O'Reilly, like captaining him this week could have it paid off for him. But you also see that like if he scores that extra goal, Luke's week goes from amazing to like one of his best ever. So really just kind of play in those
Mhm.
margins. Um, yeah, that's basically all I have there.
Yeah. No, I think that's good context for the listeners, Paul. There's one more point I want to highlight that
Hmm.
could be potentially impactful, right? As we're going forward through the remaining games of the season, we know that Man City and Crystal Palace are going to double, right? Like that has to happen. It seems most likely that will go into game week 36. Um, So that will be pretty impactful from an FPL perspective. There's also the off chance that Bournemouth and Man City could double as well. As far as I'm aware, I think that's due to the FA Cup. Ben Crellin was tweeting about this as a possibility. I can't find his most recent tweet, so um, that's one of those where I don't want to misquote it, but I just want to highlight it as well. So if you're looking um, for who you're going to be bringing into your team or even transferring out, right? Because a lot of us brought in Bournemouth assets um, for this game week, right? To
Hmm.
maximize the double. If you didn't free hit, then you might still have those Bournemouth assets. So before you go transferring them out, just keep that in mind that they potentially could double in the future as well. So
Yeah,
um, just something to keep on our radar as we're making those transfers going into game week 34. But I think that's going to bring us to the end of this pod. We really appreciate you guys listening. And while you're still here, go and give us a follow on YouTube and give us a like as well, potentially, because that really helps us in the algorithm as well. So we appreciate you guys for joining us this week. Paul, any final thoughts before we sign off?
I think that's all I have, man. It's going to be a crazy end to the FPL season. It's already been great, seeing growth of the podcast, more people reaching out to us, all that stuff. So if you enjoy the podcast, share it with other people. I mean, it really does mean a lot to us. We put a lot of time, a lot of energy into this, and it is something that we really just do because we're passionate about it. But having more people to talk about with FPL is always something that we're looking for. And just be on the lookout too. I mean, we are going to do a lot of stuff this summer, I think, with kind of some stuff for the World Cup. So with that too, feel free to share it with anybody you think that would be interested, because we just want to connect with
Yes.
as many people as possible. And as you can tell, like, Luke does a great job putting the graphics together, always preparing us for these episodes. So there's some really good stuff in here for FPL managers and just soccer fans alike. So
Yeah. And we'll continue to streamline this and make it look better and polish things up as well. So be on the lookout for that. But Paul, it was a pleasure doing this podcast with you.
mhm.
And I hope everyone out there, you have a good rest of your day. Thanks for joining us, guys.
All right, see you guys.